Good evening from New York. I'm Chris Hayes. Nearly 2 weeks out from the FBI's search of the ex-president's Florida home, Donald Trump's excuses keep getting worse. They keep changing, and they keep getting worse. He's now threatening to take steps that could further inflame tensions and outright endanger FBI agents. Now, at first, Trump tried to push nonsense conspiracy theories about the FBI planting the classified documents in Mar-a-Lago, which was frankly absurd. And when it didn't work, he landed on the consistent excuse. Yes, the documents were mine. Yes, I had them with me, but it's fine because I declassified them.
This is from President Trump's office. It just came in a few minutes ago. As we can all relate to, everyone ends up having to bring home their work from time to time. American presidents are no different. President Trump, in order to prepare the work the next day, often took documents, including classified documents, to the residence. He had a standing order. There's the word I've been looking for. That documents removed from the Oval Office and taken to the residence were deemed to be declassified the moment he removed them.
Now, that's an almost comical monologue there from John Solomon, who's essentially a mouthpiece for Trump. That excuse was pretty obviously a lie, but we've got new reporting to actually confirm it, nail it down. 18 former White House officials, including 2 of Trump's White House chiefs of staff, John Kelly and Mick Mulvaney, say there was no standing order to declassify documents. It would certainly appear as though Trump is just lying to try to save his hide. So Rudy Giuliani, who appears to be in quite a bit of legal trouble, is the target, again, of that criminal investigation in Georgia, went on the far-right outlet Newsmax to try and clear things up.
Now, they want to make him responsible for having taken classified documents and preserved them. Really, if you look at the Espionage Act, it's not really about taking the documents. It's about destroying them or hiding them or giving them to the enemy.
Right.
It's not about taking them and putting them in a place that's roughly as safe as they were in the first place.
Now, the Espionage Act is a weird and in some ways bad piece of legislation, but that's not true, what Giuliani is saying. According to Trump's own former head of counterintelligence at the Department of Justice, quote, the Espionage Act explicitly applies to the willful retention of classified and non-classified defense-related documents in an unauthorized place. That is obviously what we're talking about. In fact, it's all but been admitted to by the Trump people. Setting that aside, sure sounds like Giuliani's openly admitting Trump took the documents that he apparently knew were classified in order to preserve them. Of course, we know that Trump was storing at least some of the documents in the basement of his golf resort, which, no matter how you slice it, I don't think is safer than with the National Archives. We even know the Department of Justice investigators, again, in this long back and forth, right, where they're trying to get the papers back and secured, told Trump he needed to put a lock on the door where the documents were kept, meaning his attempts at preservation certainly left something to be desired. Now, just watch Trump's current lawyer flounder when Fox News lobbed her a softball question about how secure the documents were.
They asked for one more lock, add another lock, which we did. And then, for whatever reason, they decided that they still needed to raid the place.
And only 1 or 2 people had access to that room, to your knowledge?
That's my understanding. I mean, I would have to check with, the maintenance of that area, but my understanding it is a very small number of people that could get in there.
Laura's like, please work with me here. I'm trying to help you out. Not a very reassuring answer when we're talking about top secret documents. And in case you've forgotten, of course, Trump doesn't really deserve the benefit of the doubt when it comes to preserving any kind of national security secrets. I mean, just for one example, and there are truly countless, listen to the musician Kid Rock describe how Trump was apparently discussing sensitive issues of foreign policy and national security with the nuclear power with him when he visited the White House.
We're looking at maps. I'm like, am I supposed to be like in on I make dirty records sometimes. I'm like, I do it here.
You didn't think you'd have a hand?
What do you think we should do about North Korea? I'm like, what? I don't think I'm qualified to answer this.
That's the most relatable I've ever found Kid Rock, and he's right. He's not really qualified to answer. But all this stuff aside, what is less funny than the kind of haphazard and somewhat ridiculous attempts by Trump to wriggle out of this, what he's doing now with his attacks on the FBI, I think, is legitimately dangerous. So it's been reported that Trump made this overture to the Department of Justice. New York Times reported this through an emissary, and he sent this message to Merrick Garland. He wanted it to get Merrick Garland. And the question was, the country is on fire. what can I do to reduce the heat? And by country on fire, what he meant was he talked to all these people who were enraged by the search on Mar-a-Lago. And there's a way to read that, which I think is the plain reading of it, which is ominous, right? A threat. Trump telling the DOJ, be careful, that his supporters are agitating for violence. Be careful what you do. Because obviously it's very obvious that Trump is not interested in cooling tensions at all. Now, we don't know for sure who initially leaked the actual Mar-a-Lago search warrant to pro-Trump news outlets, including Breitbart, although I'll leave it to you to guess. But the copy of the document that circulated in some far-right circles did not redact the names of the FBI officers involved, putting their lives in danger. And again, I'm not being hyperbolic here. This is not just empty threats. Just last week, right after the search, a man took a gun to an FBI building in Ohio and later fired directly at officers in a standoff after posting online about he wanted to kill the FBI agents. Earlier this week, a Pennsylvania man was arrested for allegedly using the far-right social media platform Gab to share explicit threats against the FBI. Statements like, quote, every single piece of blank who works for the FBI in any capacity, from the director down to the janitor who cleans their effing toilets, deserves to die. You've declared war on us, and now it's open season on you. The Florida judge who approved the search warrant on Mar-a-Lago is now receiving death threats, which are apparently so serious, his synagogue canceled tonight's scheduled service. Okay? That's what it means when Trump sends a message to Merrick Garland, the country's on fire. And now the ex-president is reportedly mulling the possibility of releasing the surveillance camera video of the Mar-a-Lago search, which would, it seems, further endanger those agents by making their faces public to Trump's enraged supporters. In his new statement this evening, the Department of Justice told NBC News, quote, we would hope the video would only be provided in a format that obscures the faces and identifying information of law enforcement personnel. But that doesn't seem to be a concern. Just listen to how another one of Trump's lawyers put it.
So you can't see the affidavit, and of course you can't see what they were doing in the raid. Love transparency in this government.
We don't want you to see their identities either, because we don't want you to know who did that. Well, if you're doing it as an agent, I'm not sure that you should have that right. Listen, FBI agents, undercover agents, that's one thing. But when you go into a president's home, an ex-president's home, what do you expect is going to happen? What do you expect?
Think about that. What do you expect is going to happen? What's that mean? Trump could care less, right, about protecting law enforcement. In fact, just today, he used his weird off-brand platform to further inflame the country, to really incite. He referred to the execution of the search warrant as, quote, atrocities being perpetrated by the FBI and DOJ, that law enforcement in our country has become that of a third world nation. I don't believe the people will stand for it. How much are we all expected to take? Quote, never in our country's history is there a time where law enforcement has been so viciously and violently involved in the life and times of politics in our nation. They have no shame. They are destroying our country. Again, someone shot up an FBI headquarters after the raid. He knows that. This morning, Trump's lawyer again took to right-wing media to issue what, again, sure seemed like a threat to the Department of Justice.
I don't see an indictment coming down. I also think the nation's reaction to this raid, I think the department was surprised at how angry America got and how frustrated we all are that we feel like we're losing our rights. And this is so overly political. So I think it's causing them to go, oh, maybe we don't have what we think we have. So I hope that they take a second look and are cautious about doing something as stupid as trying to go after President Trump.
Well, yeah, especially
they've tried this before.
Again, listen to what is said there, right? They've basically admitted to the crime, right? They had the documents. They willfully retained them, right? Now they're not making legal arguments. They're just saying, you will destroy civil peace in this country because our followers will what if you do this? They're threatening law enforcement and the DOJ, claiming the country will erupt into violence if they don't do what Trump wants. I got to say, the last time that Trump's rhetoric was this openly inciting, his platform was much higher. It's not the same. But the last time it was this inciting, a mob stormed the Capitol and people ended up dead.